Hello and welcome to the Made for More video series. I'm your host, Jade Stoner, and in this mini series, along with my guests, we're going to be getting into some of the things that are really going to help you to elevate your life from the inside out so that you can create the life that your soul is calling you to and not just live the life that you settled for. Today, I am joined by the amazing Brandi Daniels, who is a human design nerd, her words, by the way, and she uses human design and gene keys to help people work with their natural gifts and find their flow so that they can stop playing small and rock their life. So I'm super excited to have you here, Brandi, and be getting into this topic. So welcome.
Thank you, beautiful. Oh my gosh, that was an amazing intro. Like, I love that you're doing this series. It's so necessary, it's so needed. And the person who needs what you're delivering is going to find this. I know it.
Absolutely. And just recently, I've started to watch Manifest, which is a program it's a couple of years old now, actually. I think they've just released the next,
Yeah.
and they're very much, the theme that goes throughout it is everything is connected. You know, they see their signs, they do their thing. And I believe in that stuff and have done for years. But the past couple of
Mhm.
days since I've been watching it, oh my gosh, signs. Really like, and I'm a very visual learner as well. So when I'm seeing these signs, it's almost like in the show where they glow a bit. So yeah, absolutely believe that whoever sees this is going to need it. Something's going to resonate. It's going to change your life. And that is exactly what the whole inspiration around this series is. So it's something that I was inspired to do. It's something that came to me as a divine download, as I like to call them, a couple of months ago. And here we are. So I knew who I wanted to have on and the kind of things that I wanted to get into, like some of the biggest game changers, because it's not a long series. So some of the things that are really going to help people move the needle, and human design is one of those.
Well, I'm so honored to be here. I know when I had you on my podcast, we had an amazing time. We had so much fun.
Yeah.
I've been dying to talk to you again. So this is a great opportunity. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. So human design, what is it?
Oh my gosh, human design. Okay. Well, do you want the long story or short story? Just kidding.
Whatever you feel like doing, whatever you're inspired to do.
Oh my gosh. I always love to start by saying, because one, it's true and it's a big statement that human design changed my life. And I say that because I am one of those people who have been on a journey for a very long time. I have worked with numerous business coaches, therapists, mentors, gurus, guides, like you name it, I've probably been a part of that program. And I've been on a search for figuring out my purpose, for one, which is a big one. What am I meant to do? Why am I here? Why am I still here? Right? What is this big thing that's meant for me to do and accomplish in this lifetime? I've been on this journey of self-discovery, really learning to love myself and my body and what I'm able to do. I've been on this journey of just figuring out, what does all this mean? Right. And human design came into my life at a time where I was one on this, like, okay, I finally have reached this mountaintop and it looks nothing like I thought it was going to. Now what? And I was like, okay, I think I'm done with seeking outside help. Obviously, it's a different process that needs to happen. And human design came in. And it came in through a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in a really long time. And we met up in Hawaii. And before I could even put my bags down, she was like, Brandi, have you heard of human design? I'm like, no, like, can I put my bags down first? But she was so excited to tell me about it. And the energy that she presented it with, the excitement, I knew it was something big. I knew it was something important. And when she started to read me my design, everything just started firing off. It was like that glow you just talked about. Literally, everything is connected. Everything happens for a reason. And as she's reading these bits to me, I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. I just kept saying that, like, oh my God. This is literally the answers, right, that I've been seeking. And the most amazing part was that it was already in me. She was reading me my design. She was reading me the information that I needed that is already within me from the time I was born. And it wasn't that I had to answer, 100 questions that on any given day, depending on my mood, the moon, the sun, the planets, I might answer differently. It was just my birthday, my birth time, my birth location. And it's presented to you. And it was so on the nail. So when people say, what is human design? My first answer is it's a game changer. It's a game changer and a literal blueprint of who you are, the potential you have in this life, and a guide on how you can maneuver those trouble spots, right? Those blind spots, the shadowy parts of our life that we don't always want to talk about or express, but we get to because that's actually our superpower, right? It's when you fully know, okay, what are my triggers? What's the shadow part of myself that I don't want anyone else to know? When you know how to maneuver life through that way, through those things, that becomes your superpower, and how you do develop empathy and compassion, and you're able to fully show up authentic as everyone, like that's the buzzword, right? But truly show up authentic because you know who you are, you're confident. You're confident in every aspect, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful. To answer your question.
Yeah, I love what you described, like at the start of that, talking about the journey that you've been on. I was like, is she talking about me? It's very, very similar. And what I love about human design, and in a way, I kind of wish I'd found it earlier, but if I did, I would have dismissed it. I wouldn't have trusted it, that everything comes to you at the right time, in divine timing. When I understood my human design, it was like you said, it was click, click, click. It was like, oh, I'm not broken. There isn't anything wrong with me. This is how I'm designed. And I love the word that you use, the blueprint. It is literally a blueprint for us, right? And so my understanding is there 4 different energy types?
There's actually 5. There's 4, but it's a subtype. So technically we
Oh,
say 5.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so we're all very similar in those ways, but then you can get really, really granular into your chart. So I'm a generator. And one of the things that really stuck out to me, one of the things, very first things that I remember learning was mastery over time. And that was my point of like, oh, there isn't anything wrong with me. I'm just not meant to read a book, do a course, go and put it into action, and then poof, everything comes together just like that. I'm meant to learn through my life experiences. I'm meant to gain the wisdom of the intellectual learnings through my lived life experience, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And
Exactly.
And that's what makes me the coach that I am today. That's what makes me the mentor that I am today, because I have all of this wisdom and this gold and all of this stuff inside of me. And I can say all that to you sitting here right now because I know my human design. And that's the power that it has for me. I feel like it's something that should be taught in schools. Children could learn this stuff. Oh my gosh, how much will be bypassed of, is there something wrong with me? Why don't I fit in? Why is this being taught that way, but I'm just not getting?
Thank you. Yes.
So many little things. And I'll give you a quick story. So I've learned about my human design on and off for years. When I first was told about it, I was told about it by somebody and I kind of dismissed it. I didn't really get it. I didn't care to look into it. It was like, this is just another complicated modality thing that I don't want to know. And then I don't know how it came back round again. And I was like, oh, and I've done that lots of times. I'll dip in, I'll be all in, generator, all in with something, and then I'll pull back. And then I come back to it. And every time I come back to it, I'm reminded of the power of it. I'm reminded of something that I'd forgotten about how I operate, how I best operate. I learned something new. So in one of these dives a couple of years ago, I also pulled my son's chart. So I pulled Jaden's chart, and Jaden is a projector. And it must have been a couple of years ago. So he must have been 14, teenager. So I had this thought of, he's a lazy teenager. I'm laughing because this just sounds so wrong, but it's what I was thinking. And then I pulled his chart and I read it. And I was like, oh my goodness, he's not lazy. I mean, he might be a little bit, but we all are. But this is his human design type, like his literal design. I'm a generator. I'm designed to go, go, go.
Yes.
He's designed, do a little bit, pull back, do a little bit, pull back. He's designed to think of the shortest, smartest,
Most efficient.
that's the word. So sometimes
Yeah.
years you've done little things. I'm like, oh, that's interesting the way you've done it. It all just made sense. And again, this is the power of human design. So, firstly, where can people get a chart?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So the beautiful thing about human design is it is readily available to anyone and everyone for free. What that means is that there are a number of sites, including my own, where you can go and just download your chart or your body graph, we call it. And so my website is livingyourhd.com. You can Google human design chart and a ton will pop up. Put in your information, your birthday, location, birth time, and it pops it out. And most places will give you a very short description of what you're looking at. And then from there, usually for most people, just that little bit of information sends them down a rabbit hole, like
Yeah.
it did for us, right? We're like, oh, tell me more. What does this mean? What does this mean? And then from there, you can book a reading to go into a deep dive and have either your whole chart explained or certain parts. What I love and what I do in my sessions is I always send you a questionnaire first when you book. And that for me is an opportunity for you to get at least get some clarity on what you want to focus on. Because human design literally can answer any question. It can show you where that is within your design, right? And help guide you, help you make that decision. And so it's really important that when you walk in, you at least have some idea. Okay, I want to focus on business. I want to focus on marketing. I want to focus on my relationships. I want to focus on my children and being a better parent, right? There's knowing at least the direction you want to go in when we have your chart in front of us will help guide the conversation. Otherwise, it's just going to be like a fire hose.
Yes,
In your
I've done a lot of work around human design. I've never heard anybody put that parenthesis at the beginning. I've
Yeah.
seen different people teach it through a lens of, human design for money, human design for business, human design for parenting, but never at the start of like, why do you want this? And that can actually really help because, like you say, it's like a fire hose and it helps narrow it down.
Exactly. It's so much information. And so, as a reader, it's important that we don't overload you because too much information, nothing happens, right? Nothing sticks. There's no transformation. You just got hit with a bunch of words. So if you have an idea of like what's really going on in your life that you do want some clarity on or some direction, the chances of you then walking away and implementing, those practices is even greater because
Mm.
we've literally narrowed in on like what is your pain point right now? Where do you need help?
And one of the things that I don't remember who said it to me, but I was told if there's nothing else that you take from your chart, if there's nothing else that you implement, rather, it is your energy type. And I'm just looking over at my chart because I can't remember the word, the authority.
Strategy. Yes.
So
Yes. And I would add your strategy too. But yeah, know your type
that's
and your strategy and your authority.
actually what I meant. Strategy and type. It's all important, but it is a lot. There's people that have
Exactly.
been for like 7 years and they're like, they're still not there. And then when you get granular, there's like the gates and the lines and
The channels. There's so much.
there's so much. So I know one of the things that always comes up is that for people that don't know their birth time, how to
Yes.
get their chart, what's the workaround?
Great question. Great question. So if you're in the States in particular, I'm not too sure about other countries, but I know in the States, you can contact the local government where you were born and have your official birth certificate sent to you. That is an option. If you were born at a certain time, like I would say maybe early 50s, 1950s and earlier, that may not be available. So then another option is to go to an astrologer or someone who can really help place your birth time based on like some really cool tools that I have no idea what they are. There are ways. And so I would say again, Google University is the best solution. Google, how do I find my birth time when I don't know what it is? And resources will pop up. But generally, I've had a couple of clients that way. One, she did have to go to an astrologer who helped her figure out her birth time. And the other one, she had a general idea. She knew it was in the morning, and she knew it was between like 1 and 6 a.m. So literally, I just pulled charts for every hour,
Oh, wow.
and we just went through it. And it took a few sessions, but we figured out, what she really aligned with,
Mhm.
and what kept coming up, and we were able to narrow it down. We still don't know if it's 100% accurate, but what she was able to pull away from it was really useful and felt aligned to her.
I think you've hit something really, really powerful there, and that is about what feels aligned for you. Because look,
Yeah.
human design is one modality out there. There's multiple personality tests. There's many other things, and I touched on this. It may have been our conversation actually when I was on your podcast. But when and you mentioned this earlier, like looking outside of yourself for stuff. When we look outside of ourselves for these things, and human design says do it this way, so you go this way, and then I don't know, my astrologer says do it this way, you can go this way, and this coach or this guru or this person says go this way, you're all over the place. Like,
Yeah.
you have to take what resonates with you, and there is a bit of discernment there, because some things are going to resonate, but your ego, the human part of you that doesn't want to hear anything, is that no, that's not me, crossed arms, like the
Exactly.
child inside slapping their
Exactly.
face, no, no, no. There's also that it is true, but it might take you a while just to accept it. I was once upon a time very much like go, go, go. And I felt like I had to initiate everything. So for me, learning, well, actually, I'm not supposed to initiate, I'm supposed to wait and respond. It's like, no, what am I supposed to do with that? How am I going to live my life? So there is that, but it is about coming back to you and what is aligned for you. There's a part of you, your soul, that knows your truth. And this is a way you take back your power, by knowing, okay, I heard what you said, and I heard what you said. What feels right for me? And it's about us coming home to ourselves and coming back to our body and reconnecting with ourselves. And when we come from that place of groundedness, we stop giving our power away to these modalities, to these things. Like, they're all powerful and they're all helpful, and really the reason for them is to help you come back to you and understand who
Yes.
you are. Like, when you have this human design chart and you understand it, and you're able to say, like I shared earlier, oh, this is why I am the way I am. There's actually nothing wrong with me. I'm literally designed like this. But I know, so I learned about the arrows in your chart from somebody not long ago, and they said all your arrows face one way, which all of mine do, then you're made to be more in your masculine energy or something like that. And I was just like, okay, I hear you. And no, like, literally, no, I'm not about to live my life like that. I've been there, done that. There's a time and a place for living in masculine energy, but not all the time. So just because some arrows on a chart tell me this according to wherever you've learned it from, that's cool. Like, I'm just not going to take it. And that's my power.
Right. I love that. And I love, like, you nailed it when you said coming back home to yourself, because that's really what it felt like. It's like we spend, excuse me, my voice, we spend so much of our life being conditioned, and we call it conditioned, by our family, our church, our religion, our school, our friends, community, social media, all of these outside things influencing us on how we act, how we respond, how we live our life. Instead of what human design does, it reminds you that you already have everything you need. The way you are is perfect. And now you get to decondition from all of the junk that you've taken on, and just really tap back into your own power, right? And trust that. And what I love about human design too is the father of it, Ra, what's his name? He just kept saying, this is all an experiment, right? Don't, just what you said, don't take this as Bible, right? This is information being presented to you. Now you get to go and play with it. You get to experiment. Just It's like, put on this hat and see how it fits. Maybe it fits, maybe it doesn't. That's okay. Put the hat down, try on a new one, right? When you learned about your variables, the arrows, we call them, and in that time and place that didn't fit, right? That's fine. Put that down, look somewhere else in your chart. You know, you've really connected with being a generator and the power that brings. That's what you're needing right now, where you are in this time and space, right?
Yeah.
That was the oomph, the bump you needed,
Yeah.
right? Human design is so vast. There's so much there. To what saddens me is people who have had a reading, and not to put down other readers, but maybe that particular reading wasn't empowering, and
Mhm.
they just focused on the negatives, the shadow side, and they didn't buffer it with like, okay, this is what you can do, you know, to rise above that. And so the person left feeling like, oh, well, I'm right. I am broken. I am messed up. There is no help for me. And that is not the intention at
Yeah.
all.
And also some of that is about how we're wired as humans. You know, we have what's called the negative bias. So we're always looking for the negative side of stuff anyway.
Yes.
Somebody may have had a reading and had that buffering, but they didn't hear the buffering.
No.
So all they focused on was, I'm broken, you know, I've got this undefined center, so I can't do this. When I learned about my undefined centers, and I'll allow you to explain what that means in a moment, but
Yeah.
basically the whole top half of my chart is undefined. But I love the way that I was taught it, which was that there's a gift in having these open centers. It means that you're not as, she didn't use these words, these are my words, but you're not as rigid in those places. You have less conditioning there because it doesn't hold. So the great thing about it, she said, it's like having a basket and you walk around a supermarket and you just borrow bits from other people because you've got these open centers. You can't keep it forever because it's not yours. You don't have natural energy there, but that's the fun of it. You go and have fun. So I really love that, and I found that very empowering.
I love that explanation. I'm gonna borrow that from whoever gave you that reading.
Go for it. That's what most of the ideas in the world are, aren't they? We borrow them from the universe. We borrow
Oh
them
my
from
gosh, all
God.
day
It's like,
long. Yeah.
oh, I like that.
Oh, I
So
love that so much. So
to
our
the
centers are connected to, if anyone's familiar with the chakra center, the chakra centers, right? So from the crown to the root, everything in between. When we say you have a open center, it means that it's completely white on your chart. And so just like you said, you're not fixed. So for example, I have a open head or crown if you're thinking about chakras. So what that means is that, you know, questions, ideas are constantly flowing in and out of my head. Constantly. I'm picking up other people's questions. If you may have experience feeling like you're a mind reader, you know, like you'll say something, the person's like, I was just thinking that, but you picked up on it and you don't know why. It just popped in your head. That is literally your intuition, right? Your the energetic pool that we all share when we're connected. So, you know, having a conversation with that's super deep, you know, it can definitely happen. But I'm also like, it's a little more work for me to really focus because I'm constantly pulling in more information, more information. If I were defined, I'm more fixed. So less gets in. I might have to work a little bit to be open minded, right? Because I'm very sure on what I know, right? I'm very sure on what I've experienced versus an open head is very literally open to whatever is coming through and like, sure, I'll try that. Yeah, I'll try that. Yes, I'll entertain that. So again, not good or bad, either one. Both are very important, very useful. You just get to learn how to use that as a superpower. The third way we call undefined. And that just means that you have some definition there, but not all. So within a center, there are gates, and each of those gates represent something important, an energy. And so you might have one or two or three of those gates defined, which means that's the energy you always have available to you. but the rest of it is open. So again, good, bad, however you want to look at it, it's there. It's a superpower. You get to learn how to use that to your benefit and how to embrace it.
Mm. You know, as I was hearing you describe like the open head center, so I had a conversation with somebody yesterday who identifies as having ADHD. And I've noticed a massive surge in identifying labeling of ADHD within the online space for quite some time. And I have some different theories about it. And from a spiritual perspective, I have a perspective, and I also have other thoughts about it. But just hearing what you were saying there, I was like, that literally sounds like somebody who was describing ADHD, because I actually asked her, I was like, you're the first person that I'm actually speaking to face to face. And I felt comfortable. So I asked her, you know, I don't remember the question, but it was something about ADHD. And one of the things she was saying was like how fast her mind works and and I was like, you could literally be describing me right now. I'm never going to go to a doctor and never have that. Like my personal viewpoint is we have too many labels going on in our society. And I'll tell you
Thank you. Yes.
So Jason and I were watching TV a couple of weeks ago, and a cat landed on my wall outside of my window, and I freaked. I have like, cats freak me out. And we said something, and I think he said to me, you've got some kind of phobia. I was like, there probably is a name for being scared of cats, because there's a name for everything these days. He Googled it, lo and behold, there was. I was like, literally, I told you there's a label for everything. I said, there's probably a label for somebody that's scared of a TV. I kid you not, he Googled it. There was a label for being scared of TVs. There was even a label for being scared of long words. And the irony of it was a super long word. And I'm just like, okay, this is why I'm kind of done with the world. It's just wild. So anyway.
Is there a label for being afraid of labeling?
Probably labelophilia. Everything ended with phobia, or it wild. Go and Google something really random, like,
oh my god.
Go and Google being scared of a radiator. I bet there's a word for it. So this is my open head center. So coming back to the ADHD.
Exactly, it's the perfect example. Shiny ball, shiny ball.
Most of the time, I do remember where I started. I used to open a loop and not close it because I couldn't remember where I was. And so ADHD. So one of the things she was describing was, you know, thoughts and questions and questioning things and all of this stuff coming through. And as I was just hearing you talking about what an open head center is, or undefined, sounds exactly the same. And my thing is like, isn't that interesting? So if somebody, and you know, this is not about a diagnosis, we're obviously not doctors, but if somebody was to look at their chart and understand how they're literally designed, like their literal blueprint, that acceptance, I think, no, actually, I know would be a game changer. And one of the things that I found interesting, so with this conversation yesterday, and with a conversation I had with my friend about her son a long while ago, who he thinks has ADHD, is it's not so much they want to be diagnosed as having ADHD. Let me do it another way. The reason that they want to have an understanding of and a diagnosis of ADHD is to understand themselves, to have that understanding, to be able to then say, oh, this is why I'm like this. Now, actually hearing you and reflecting this in-depth conversation on human design, that is what human design gives you. And that's another reason why it needs to be out there in the world as a tool.
I agree. And it's interesting too, if whoever's listening to this, if you are interested in learning, do your own research. But I did come across this recently, and it blew me away, that in the late 50s, early 60s, there was this surge of children like being born, coming up, and thinking in a very non-linear way. And that posed a problem, right? It posed a problem because at that time, it was all about, you fit in this box, you do this, there's no questions asked, right? And looking back on it now, the science, the research has shown that there's a whole generation that started to come up, that started their minds were different. Their minds were thinking outside the box. Their minds were questioning and asking different things. And they were more hyperactive than the generations before. And there was a literal shift in our DNA. There was a literal shift in our dynamic as a human being. And the first thing government, science, whoever you want to label it, wants to do is control that. So it was, oh, there's something wrong with your child. If your child does this, something is wrong with him or her, and they need medication. They need to be put here in this type of school. They need to be, you know, reconditioned, right? Term they might have used, so that they act appropriately, right? If you talk to your parents, a lot of times that generation, they were taught children are seen, not heard,
Oh, that
right? And that was another way of keeping kids in line. And so when you think about that, that is also the time where a lot of a lot of new age thinking started coming about as well. And that was scary for people. That wasn't normal, right? You had church, you had state, that was it. There was none of this woo-woo stuff as we call it now. And so anything that doesn't fit into something that can be explained easily, people fear. It doesn't make sense.
and I,
Right. And so they immediately they want to label it. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I can hear the line from Cool Runnings popping up in my head. People are always afraid of what's different.
Yep. Exactly. And so it's interesting, like what you're saying, it's like, yes, we want to label everything because that helps us figure out where to put it.
Yeah, but you already said the word. It's actually figure out how to control it is
And
the
that,
problem. And that
yes,
is the root of codependency, is
yes,
wanting or feeling the need to control stuff. And then from a spiritual perspective, it's about letting go of the control. And actually, are we ever really in control? Us humans like to think we're in control, but we're really not. I went to the park a couple of weeks
it's
ago,
true.
and there was a swan on its nest, and there was a sign in front of it. So the river was kind of lower down a bit, and there was a sign on the side that said, please do not feed the swans whilst they're in their nest, because what happens is they don't eat it, and then rats come along and they attack the cygnets and the eggs, and it's a problem. Swans know what to do. Like, if they're hungry, they know to get up from their nest and they can go away and get food. And I was like, this is the problem with humans. Like, they like to think they know better, but actually nature is wired in such a way that it knows
Yes,
exactly what to do and when to do it. It's only us humans that like to think that we know better and are trying to force and pull and control. And the part of the growth is about letting go. It's about surrender,
100%.
and it's about
Yes,
the healing. And so on healing, when I was hearing you talk about the changes and how they were born in the 50s and they were doing things differently, I also thought about trauma. So trauma is something that's coming up a lot. People are becoming more aware of, and what is a trauma, and the fact that we've all experienced trauma, because it isn't
yeah,
what most people think it is. And so going back to human design, we've got these charts. They're kind of like pure, they're like a map, but our traumas, our experiences of traumas and how we internalize it then causes us to adapt. And therefore, if, for example, in your human design, you're meant to respond, for example, as I am, but because of life experiences, I learned to do things differently. I adapted who I was and how I operated as a way of surviving, as a way of safety, as a way of protection. So that
yes,
adaptation almost changes it. And it's like, again, it's about letting go to be able to come back to the truth of who you are and how you operate. So all of that to say, people that are going to read a chart, because I've done it myself and been like, okay, this is how I am, but I'm not like that. And I guess that's the deconditioning part again, isn't it? The healing is the deconditioning, really.
it truly is. And if this is the part where I started to geek out, because what I didn't say earlier, I should have led with this as well. Human design is how do I want to say this? It's based on four very solid foundations: chakras, Kabbalah, the I Ching, and astrology. Now, the one that I want to touch on right now, based on what you just said, is the I Ching. The I Ching is a Chinese text that is based on what's called the 64 codon. And what now scientists realize is that the 64 codon of the I Ching is directly connected to our DNA.
Oh, wow.
And so, literally, when you're reading your chart, that is why that design is you. Because again, we're not asking you questions except for your birthday, your birth time, your birth location, right? And so, why it resonates so much with you is because it literally is in your DNA. What is being read to you? What is there on your chart? And the other layer, which is the gene keys, which is a separate system, but they work very well together. The gene keys allows you to go in and see that trauma. They call it the origin point. They call it the core wound, which you may be familiar with as well. So that is where, at the moment of your birth, when you are disconnected, when that cord is cut from your mother, that is where the core wound starts. And that is something that you will carry with you your entire life. Now, how you use that will determine like what direction you go, right? If you use that to keep you in a certain place and that becomes, what defines your entire life, and you never grow from it because you never learn about it and you never learn, the tools and the things to process and to use that as your superpower. Or is that core wound the thing that sets you off and gives you the power, the stamina, the energy to go out and change the world, right? The way we handle trauma, the way we heal, we choose to heal is different for everyone. And it happens on our own time, right? Some people, like myself, I need to experience things over and over and over before I'm like, okay, I've had enough. For other people, it's that first hit and they're like, no, I am never having this happen again. How do I change this? Right? What do I need to know and learn from this to rise above it and to not have this be a trigger for me or have this experience be repeated?
Mm.
And to me, like that's, again, there's nothing wrong with coaching, mentors, guides. It's all useful, right? When I did have a coach who told me one time, money is never wasted if you learn something, right? Maybe you didn't get the results you wanted, but that's control. That was you trying to control the outcome, but you got something from it.
Always. And
Yeah.
I also believe that you get what you need. Sometimes, again,
Yes.
ego
Yes.
versus soul. Ego wants, how do I make the money? How do I make it now? Soul knows
Exactly.
you're not ready. You need to see this thing and you need to do this. But yeah,
Oh my God. Oh my God. Sorry to interrupt. I
go.
just have to tell you one thing. Because this literally just happened to me yesterday. A friend of mine was like, we were talking about this, and she's like, Brandi, if you literally got everything you wanted right now, do you think you could actually handle it?
Mm.
And my ego was like, yes, hell yes. The other side of me was like, oh, that's a good point.
A really powerful coaching question to ask yourself: what is the secondary benefit of you not getting what it is that you want? And at first, people are like, huh? There is no benefit. There's always a benefit. But here's the thing, subconscious level. So it's not a conscious thing. Why would we want to go through pain? On a subconscious level, there is always a reason. And there is a time and a place and a space for everything. Like, obviously, I'm a coach and I believe in the power of coaching. The reason that I am a coach, similar to you being in human design, is because coaching changed my life. I understand the power of it. And also, so one of the things that came up yesterday was, do I personally have my own coach at the moment? And I was honest and said, no, I haven't had my own coach for some years, because what I recognized is that I was healing codependent patterns, always needing someone or something else outside of me. So there's this it's not a rule, but you'll hear a lot of people, a lot of coaches say you should always have a coach. You should never be without one. That that doesn't sit right with me. I was trained to always be coaching myself out of a job, because my job is to be giving you the power to be able to be
Yes.
yourself. So I
Yes.
was always doing something. I had a coach, or I was in a course, or I was doing something. And they got to a point, and I heard my soul, my intuition say to me, it's time for you to step back. You need to stop listening to outside and start listening to inside. And now I'm at the stage, this was a couple of years ago, the past couple of months, I've been feeling into and feeling like it's time, I'm ready. And now my thing is like going to find my person, going to find my coach that I'm ready to invest in again. So that's a different thing. But
I love
there's
that.
always something, like another conversation that comes up a lot is what you just said about the investing, and people blaming the coach or not feeling like they got what they wanted. But actually, when they break it down, there was something. There's an example that comes to mind for me. So I invested in somebody, and it didn't go to plan. I don't even think I finished the entire program or whatever it was. What was my lesson in that? My lesson was there was a part of me that didn't want to invest. And that wasn't from a trying to hold on to money or anything like that. There was something inside of me telling me this is not for you. So what happens in those situations when you go against yourself is that you end up with examples of being able to look back and say, oh, but I didn't listen to myself that time, and that's what happened. Nothing bad happened. And I did learn some stuff in there, but it just wasn't for me. And then you stack all those up. And the point is about coming to the trust in yourself that the next time a situation arises, whether it's investing in a coach or a mentor or a program, or dating somebody, or going to a place or not going to a place, that you're able to say, well, I'm not fully feeling it. And I've gone against myself all these times and it didn't quite work out. So actually, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to listen to me. And that's really it. But it was really interesting to hear you share, you know, you said how we all go through stuff. It's like basically about how we deal with it. And it's exactly that. Like you and I could go through that experience and then say, oh, look, but I learned that. Whereas there's the other side of the coin is people sticking two things up and saying, well, coaches don't work, you know, and these programs don't work, and manifestation, oh, that's bullshit. You know, it doesn't work. Really, it does. It's just the way you're perceiving it. And I also remembered a story. I don't remember where I heard it. I think it's a true story. It was about they were brothers or they were twins, and one grew up to be addicted to drugs and alcohol and all of the things, and the other one was very successful. It must have been a true story because I'm pretty sure a reporter went and interviewed them both, said to the one that was addicted, why are you the way you are? Well, it's because of how my dad was and how he raised us. Okay, cool. Went to the other brother, how are you so successful and materially successful and financially successful? How are you this? Well, it's because of the way my dad raised me. So I think the dad was abusive, and one internalized that and you know, then went and punished himself throughout the rest of his life with drugs and alcohol and stuff. And the other one was kind of like, I'm never going to be like that, so I'm going to go out and I'm going to be a success. And it's like, wow, like I find that story so
same upbringing, same home life, right?
Yeah, just different lens of what you're looking through, different of what you're taking from it. And I often, my son is a very old soul, by the way, so he's young but he's old, baby face, old soul, just like me. And we've conversations, and we've had conversations, and basically the ending of it is nobody would be mad at me if my life was very different to the way it was, if I chose to like stick two fingers up to life and, you know, go down a completely different route. But something in me just wasn't about to do that. And so I've gone through all my life experiences, coming back to human design again, mastery over time, and I've learned some new stuff through the gates recently. So I've got a book that shows me all of the gates, and it has a short brief explanation of all of the gates. So when I'm like, wow. So biggest themes that I remember are I'm all about transformation and alchemy. And I'm really about lifting people up, and I'm like, wow, look at that, that is literally my job. That is literally what I do. And in those moments it helped me to own that a bit more. So yes, I was meant to go through my life experiences and come out and take the good from them and move that forward. Yeah. I wasn't meant to go the other way. And again, nobody taught me to be that way. And it's just how people choose to deal with experiences, right?
Yes, 100%. No, I mean, you nailed it. It really is. We all come into this world the same, right? And then we have experiences, we have traumas, we have things we go through, and we all have in us exactly what we need to move through those things.
Mm-hmm.
And we have free will,
Mm-hmm.
right? At the same time, but we all have what we need within us. That's one of the things with human design too, where, I think you mentioned this earlier, where, some people pull their chart and they're like, oh, I have this, or I don't have that. And it's like, you have everything that universe knew you would need, right? If you needed to have a defined head, you would have had a defined head. It's that simple,
Yeah.
right? No one is lacking. You aren't missing anything. You are perfect.
Yeah, we're not victims out here. Like, just
No.
work with what you've got.
That's all you can do.
Same thing, but different perspective is that this is the path that our souls chose.
Yes.
We chose
Yes.
these lives, we chose these people, yes, even the bad ones. Well, why would we choose these situations? It's for us to come back into our power. Everything kind of goes back to a power thing, like us being powerful and giving our power away to people and situations and circumstances and all of the things. This lifetime and the stuff that comes up is about us learning to take that back. So I've had relationships in my life that were abusive, and I know lots of people that have been through similar things, and they sit there pointing the finger at the other person. Well, I can't do this because they did that to me. Whereas my perspective, right. Yes, they did that, and what's the gift in this? And it's not about condoning the behavior of the other person, or saying that the event of whatever was okay. It's not that. It's about, right. How can I the only thing that we can control in life is ourselves, contrary to what we like to believe about stuff. It's just us, right? It's us against us.
This is it. That's it.
It's about coming back into ourselves in this situation of, what can I control? Okay, well, this person did this. This is going back to the conscious of the subconscious that I mentioned earlier. If we're really, really honest and we get really, really still, there's a part of us that allowed the things to happen on an unconscious level.
Very true.
We gave our power away. And that doesn't mean that everything in life is right. Life is not black and white. There are nuances to this. This is, how can I take back my power in this situation? Yes, this person did this. Yes, that thing happened to me. And where am I now? What can I do with that? I remember somebody shared with me, a lady in South Africa didn't expect this to come up. She had been gang raped, and that is terrible, awful. So my point in sharing this story is that she didn't choose to become a victim of what happened to her. She took that experience, and the overarching story is she then went and created a facility, some kind of place where other rape victims could come to and be supported. Wow. And that's, what she went through was awful. And if she'd have gone down drugs and alcohol and all of that kind of thing route, there's not many people that would have had anything to say about that. But she chose to do something so powerful and beautiful with it. She found the beauty in her pain. She found the gift in her pain. And I feel that a part of us being here in these human bodies at this point in time is about coming back to that bigger picture of stuff.
I love that. I love that so much. It's stories like that empower me, that inspire me, You know, it's like on my lowest day, crappiest day, I think about a woman like that. And it's like, if she could do it, I have no freaking excuse. Right. Oh, that's a beautiful story.
Yes, if she can do it. And if somebody doesn't do that in a year or 2 years or 3 years, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean there's anything bad or wrong with you, or it doesn't mean it can never
It
happen.
takes as long as it takes.
It takes as long as it takes. Go look at your human
Yeah.
design chart. When I found out that my thing was, I've said this a few times now, mastery over time, that was a bit, phew, it's okay. It's okay that it's taken me 10 years to get to this point. Well, actually, I keep saying 10 years. It's like 12 years at this point. It's like, okay, yes, it's taken me 12 years to get to this point, but it's all good. And something else I reminded myself of the other day is like, I have this thing where I like zoom in and I zoom out. And when I go through periods where I've got a lot of work on, there's a lot going on, and I stop and I come back to the conscious awareness of what's going on,
Yeah.
why am I feeling like this? I realize that I've been very zoomed in like this. And then I remind myself to zoom out. And when you zoom out, so 12 years seems like a long time. It is and it isn't, depending on what the situation is, right?
True.
But when you take those 12 years and apply it to like however long you live, I'm going to live till I'm over 100, by the way. Real talk. You can all come back in this video when I'm celebrating. What do they call it? Centenarian or something. When you get to your 100th birthday. Anyway,
Yeah.
when you zoom it out like that, actually, 12 years is like a drip in the ocean. There's so much.
Exactly.
We get so consumed and caught up in the moment, in the here and the now, and the just breathe and zoom out. It takes as long as it takes. Okay, so it takes
Yes.
taken me 12 years to pull my career together, but then I'm going to be doing this for the next however many years. Again, it's a
Right.
drop in the ocean. We all need to cut ourselves some slack sometimes.
One of the best things I heard from a coach years ago was stop comparing your day one to someone's day 100,
Do you
day
remember
10,000.
I said at the beginning of this call, we were talking about signs? I literally
Yes.
heard that quote on a podcast this morning. I kid you not. It's so
But
true.
it's true. Yes.
And
I mean, personally, I have to keep reminding myself of that because I am very much the kind of person where it's not that I'm comparing myself so much, but I I beat myself up for not doing more when I already know, and it's in my design where I naturally can do the job of like 10 people. I want to, but it doesn't mean I need to all the time, right? So I expect a lot from myself. And I feel like what I have done, I don't always acknowledge. I don't celebrate, and that's a common thing too with humans. We, like you said, the negative bias. We don't celebrate our wins. We don't celebrate all that we actually have accomplished, even if it's tiny, right? We don't recognize the impact that we have had on people because maybe it wasn't on a big stage and with a million followers on Instagram and, you know, 10,000 tickets sold or whatever. We are making impacts every single day. This podcast is making an impact on one person, two people, hopefully hundreds, thousands. And we may never actually know that. But the fact that we got up today, we put clothes on, we had our coffee or our tea, and we showed up, that is making an impact. That is showing someone that I can do that. I can do that bit. I'm reading a book right now called Atomic Habits, which is amazing. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. I will send you a copy. But the first chapter is all about that 1%. If you can just do something a little bit, 1% every single day toward changing that habit, toward your goal, that is progress versus sitting on the couch and saying, oh, I didn't do it again today. Oh, I didn't do it right today. So why continue, right? 1% builds, it builds. It's just like interest. It builds. And that's like we get to remember that. We get to remind ourselves that it doesn't have to be an overnight success because that doesn't exist,
No,
right? Right. 12 years, is a drop in the bucket compared to all the years ahead of you that you have on this planet to do what you love, to make the impact, to change lives. That was just 12 years of experiences and learning and getting your feet wet and getting you prepared for what's coming, for the people that need you.
One of the other things, so when you were saying about comparing yourself to others, it comes into, don't compare your day one to somebody's chapter 10. Mm-hmm. When you actually dig behind and look at where did the people come from, one of my mentors, absolutely adore her, she's amazing. And when you look at it, her dad was taking her to visualization camps at 10 years old. She had healthy sports. She was being given one of the Jerry and Esther Hicks books at a very young. So when you look at all of these things and map it back, that's going to take a different trajectory to somebody that had a childhood where they were made to question whether they were good enough or whether they were loved, or, all of those kind of things. They're two very different things. And so I used to do that exact same thing. And that's what I've learned over the years. And when you hear these overnight successes, well, actually, where did you come from? How long have you been going for? Because that's
exactly.
There are people that have, well, we all have very different upbringings, were they already in a circle where they were well connected, or their parents were well connected, for example? Well, that's going to get someone some results quicker and differently than somebody who's literally starting from scratch. There's all these nuances that we have to look at. Some stories have popped into mind, like Colonel Sanders. He didn't kick off till he was like 65, did he? Mr. KFC.
That's true.
Luther Vandross. There's a story about Luther Vandross. He was doing jingles for like adverts for years and years and years before he got his big.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So when you start looking at,
my gosh.
Okay, so Tina Turner, she had a career, and then what happened with her and Ike? She gave him everything and started over. But then that was her biggest season of her life, and she made more wealth and impact than she'd made before. There are so many stories like this. Go to Google University, as you said earlier.
Yes.
Google some of these things, and
it will blow your mind. It will give you a whole different perspective.
That's exactly what I was about to say. It just shifts it, and it's that will start to open you up and shift you. And like you said, it's that if they can do it, I can do it. Or if they didn't get started till they were 65 and I'm only 25, whatever age you're at,
right,
starts to shift the narrative inside of you. And it is what you just described at the beginning of Atomic Habits is pretty much the same as one of my OG favorite books, The Slight Edge. And it talks about like the add up of how everything. And one of the things that sticks out that he says is that if when you ate a hamburger, like a fast food hamburger, if you had a heart attack straight away, you wouldn't eat one again.
That's true.
But it's the slight edge, it's the adding up. A burger here, a burger here, a burger here, a burger here, a burger here. And then over a period of time, and suddenly you're overweight and you're having a heart attack or whatever. Well, if you tip the scales the other way in a positive way, he says I think it's 1% or 0.1% of progress every single day over a year. Let's go off the 1%. That's 365% increase.
Exactly.
But the problem is the consistency of people when it's not working, which reminds me, so I will find the link and I will put it in the caption of this video for you to go and check it out. It's a story about the Chinese bamboo. For me, it's really, really powerful. So I'm going to do my best to like relay it, but go watch it because I might get some. Basically, when you plant bamboo seeds, you water it and fertilize it every day for years and years and years. It does absolutely nothing. You would think that there's something wrong with it. You would think, what's the point? It's not growing. It's not working. Does this sound familiar in business, in life?
Yeah.
You're looking at it, so then one day you stop watering it. But that one day of watering it will basically fuck up the whole system. It takes something like, it's almost 5 years for a bamboo to look like it's doing anything, for it to come above the surface. And
Oh,
then
wow.
in something like 90 days, it will grow like 6 or 7. No, in a very short period of time, it grows like some ridiculous number of feet. So this is where I said, go watch the video for the numbers. It's only like a 3 or 5 minute video, but in a short amount of time, it grows really, really big. And it says, well, what was going on all that time that it looked like nothing was happening? It was the roots under the ground. They were growing and strengthening to be able to withstand the strength and the.
Oh, oh, I love that. I had no idea.
It's amazing. And I often use I talk to people about the strength of your roots in my work. And I talk about a building as an example. I should use the bamboo more actually, because it is my favorite. So this series is called Made for More, right? And it's about people wanting more in their lives, you know, whatever vision they have inside of them, whatever their soul is showing to them, like that is there for them. So the size of the life, and this comes back to what your coach or your friend said to you earlier, are you able to receive it? Right now, most of us are like this, but we want this. Well, how does this fit into this huge thing fit into this, like something so small? It's about expanding ourselves to be able to withstand. And I talk about a building, like you can't build a tower, a skyscraper on sandy foundations. You might get it up there. It's not going to last.
It won't last very long.
Yeah. And that's the same. It's no different. You see this with lottery winners. You see this with people that go on diets. They get the result, but they can't hold it because they don't have the capacity.
The foundation.
So this
100%.
So then that's when the question comes in. Well, you want all this stuff, but if someone was to give it to you tomorrow, are you able to hold it? And ego says, yes, of course I am. The truth is, really? How are you, for money, for example, how are you handling your money right now? Because if you can't handle, how are you going to handle a big amount? And there's a story that I love by T. Harv Eker, and he shares the story of a little boy and his dad. They go to the ice cream shop, and the little boy gets his ice cream cone, his one scoop, and he's walking down the street and he drops it. Tears, you know, dad's like, it's okay, we'll go back and get you another one. Boy goes back in the shop and then he sees the triple scooper. He's like, I want that one. And Harv says, well, if they couldn't handle the one scoop, why would you set them up to fail with the 3 scoops?
Right.
And that's the story he tells in his book, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. So it's all about money. And he brings it back to what I've just said. Like, if you can't handle a small amount of money, the hell makes you think that you can handle millions and billions? Like, that's a whole different level. If you don't feel like you're good enough and you question who you are as a person and all of the self-doubt, self-talk that people have, but then you're looking for the love of your life, well, how are you going to handle that amount of love? And if you do, chances are you're going to self-sabotage it. The subconscious starts to throw things in the way for you to tear it all down. You're going to start thinking they're cheating on you. The old chestnut of, well, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And so you start
exactly.
Can you see how all of this stuff fits together? So I could talk for ages.
But it's so true. It's so true, though. And I truly believe this, again, like to tie all this back in, this is where having someone to talk to, having a mentor, a coach, a guide, right? Looking into yourself on a deeper level, therapist, all of it all plays a role, because when you're in it, you can't see. You can't see those signs, right? You don't realize what you are doing and what you always do, right? What you always fall back on. You need someone to point that out to you. Right?
Absolutely. And the basics of it all is we are wired for survival. Most people think ego is about you thinking that you're better than everyone else, and it's not that. The ego's job solely is about survival. It's about keeping you safe and in what's familiar. Even if what's familiar is not actually safe, it's like that saying, better the devil you know. That's how ego thinks. Like, you could be in the crappiest of situations, but hey, better the devil you know, it's safe. So when you're trying to break out from this situation, and then you start hearing that self-talk and those voices of, oh, well, what are we going to do? And how's this going to work? And and all of that train of thinking, know that that's your ego speaking. Your soul is the part of you that will be quietly whispering, speaking to you in a calm, quiet, but strong voice and saying to you, go, you can do this. You've got this. We've got you.
Yes. Yes.
And my work is about bringing people back to that voice and tuning into that and learning that, because we're not just humans. We have our human self and we have our soul selves. It's about coming back to that and learning to listen to that. The ego just wants to keep you safe. What is familiar is safe. We are wired for familiarity. That's why when you start out on a journey of personal growth or spiritual growth, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And like you say, you start working with a coach or a mentor and they point out that, oh, actually, this thing that you've been doing is not actually serving you. And then you try to change it. It's going to be uncomfortable. That doesn't mean it's not the right path for you, or it's not the thing that you should do. It's not a sign for you to stop or give up or change tracks. It's just unfamiliar. And it's about, and that's literally how your brain is rewired. It's not comfortable. If it was comfortable, more people would be living lives that are happy and full. You know, I started by sharing this is about creating the life that your soul is calling you to, and not the life that you settled for. That's what all of this is about. And I feel like human design is, and I'll go back to the word you shared earlier, that blueprint that is like the foundation of everything. And when I think about all of the work that I've done over the years, all of the trainings, all of the different modalities that I know about, not that I'm trained in, but that I've experienced myself and I've been through, and then I look at human design, I'm like, this is the one all-encompassing thing, and this is the track, and it's like a map as well. Like, this is how we can go and do the things. So I'm going to leave your website. I know you read it out earlier, but it's also in the caption to this video, and you can go and get your chart there. So go check it out. You can also get in touch with Brandi. She's going to help you. You're going to look at this thing, you might be like, the fuck is this? That's why a human design reader is really great. And then
absolutely
working with a coach or a mentor, someone like myself who can help you understand how to implement it on an ongoing basis and how it applies to the different areas of your life, that's really golden too. But if there's nothing else you do, go find your chart, go find out what type you are.
Yes. Strategy and authority.
Yes. So your type you're going to be, would you like to share the types?
So your types, or the types are, and I'll put them in order of popularity. So generator, projector, manifesting generator, manifester, and reflector. So most of the world, 70% of the population are generators. That is literally why we have the world that we have, because we need generators who have the energy to generate and create the vision, right? And manifesting generator is the subtype. So there's a small subset called manifesting generators, which are a combination of manifestors and generators. Manifestors are 8%. That's what I am, of the population. And we're really here to be like the visionary, to show that there's another way. We create, we initiate, and then we hand it off to the generators to make it happen. Because we don't have the energy. Then there's projectors like your son. That's about 20% of the population. And they literally are here to like look at everything and be like, there's a better way of doing this. There's a more efficient way, right? Generators will just go, go, go. Manifestors, we're off sleeping somewhere. Projectors are like, okay, let's take the best of all of this and make it more efficient so that we can go rest too, because they don't have the energy as well. And then the last group is the reflectors. And this is less than 1% of the population. And reflectors are really here to reflect back to us what is happening. There are mirrors. So reflectors show us, okay, manifestors have created this, generators are implementing it, projectors are tweaking it. This is what we have. This is how it actually looks. And it's like they are our mirror, simple as that. And so all of these types are necessary. They're all important. There is no one type better than the other. They're all needed for a strong foundation and for a strong world. And now our task is just how do we continue to work together and to stay in our lane?
Yeah, it's like all the different pieces of the puzzle, isn't it? They're all needed.
They're all needed.
And
They
even
all serve a purpose.
like you said, most of the population are generators, and that doesn't mean that me being a generator is the same as the next generator.
Correct. That's where we get to do the deep dive, because there's branches out from there.
And then, so your strategy. So my strategy is to respond, or wait to respond rather. So that's the other piece that people want to look at. And then what's the final piece?
Authority. Authority is how you make decisions. And I mean, and we've actually, without even labeling it, we've talked about this the whole time, because it's like, we all know what we need. We all know, right? Whether emotionally based on how we feel, whether it's an intuitive hit, it's our gut. We all know. And that's what we really should be leaning on to make decisions. Conditioning has taught us otherwise. Oh, you can't trust your gut. That's not logical. Oh, you can't trust your heart. It's too emotional. But that's how you're designed. And if you follow that, that is actually the best way for you to trust that your decisions are solid.
Beautiful, powerful. Love it, love it, love it. And this is why, well, this is one of the many reasons that I love human design. So thank you so much, Brandi. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you. This has been an amazing talk again.
It is. I love how we met. Actually, going back to the beginning of this conversation, talking about signs and how things happen, that's exactly how we connected. So you shared a post in a group saying, looking for people for my podcast. I was like, hey. And there was something about you. It was almost like you glowed out of the screen and everything. Okay, so my emotional authority, my solar plexus lit up, and I could hear the voice of my soul. It was like, go to this woman, go.
Yes.
We just had the most amazing.
And you responded. You responded. I put something out there and you responded.
I did not initiate, yes. And we had the most amazing talk and conversation. So thank you that we got to do it all over again. And I'm sure, no, not I'm sure, we will get to do it again. And I'm looking forward to that. For right here, right now, I just want to remind you, the viewer, that you are made for more. And whatever has been placed inside of you, whatever your desires are, they have been given to you for a reason. And just because they may not have happened yet, like I said, like 12 years, hello, it doesn't mean that because an amount of time has passed that it's not meant for you. It just means that there's some deconditioning that you need to do just to make yourself a vibrational match to what it is that you desire, and to be able to not just receive it into your life, but be able to hold it all too. So keep on going. Listen to that voice inside of you. Your soul knows the way, and you are made for more. So until next time, take care and big love. Mwah.